Alrighty, and as I mentioned in the chat, please feel free to let me know if you would like a copy of this recording. And so, yes, let's begin. So, as I said, my name is Amy Layton. My pronouns are she, her, hers. And we are here tonight with Sista Creatives Rising, with Claire Jones and Amaranthia. For the purposes of disability accessibility, I am a white woman with aviator glasses, brown hair with a Lily Munster blonde streak, with pink fingernails because I saw Barbie recently. So with no further ado, let me talk about Claire Jones, who is our host for this evening. So in 1 week, in March 2022, days after launching Sista Creatives Rising with her daughter Amaranthia, Claire lost her mobility by the hour. Enduring emergency surgery to remove a diffuse large B-cell lymphoma from her spine, she let go of all delusions and illusions about her health. Claire is now within the 1% category to walk again after such surgery. Now in our mission, Claire is redetermined to help marginalized women gain inner strength by accessing their artistic side. Just pausing here, sorry for my audio. I'll bring it a little closer to try to make it better. And back to Claire. A Buddhist and Francis Perkins Scholar, Claire's journey to scholarship began during her childhood in Barbados when she sought relief from the chaos of living under domestic violence. Claire uses her creative works and writings to encourage women trauma survivors to utilize art for self-improvement. In the 1990s, standing at the door of no return in Senegal, where enslaved peoples last saw their homeland, she reaffirmed her purpose to overcome intergenerational trauma. And I am also going to be dropping this in the chat for those folks who are having difficulties with my audio. Sorry about that. And more about Sista Creatives Rising. Sista Creatives Rising, SCR, is a project and concept founded by Black, invisibly disabled mother-daughter duo Claire Jones, age 60, and Amaranthia Sepia, age 23. Together, under SCR, they develop disability accessible events focused on marginalized women and marginalized genders called Art and Mind. They are a grassroots project, not an organization or nonprofit. SCR seeks to strengthen their community by increasing the visibility of these artists and providing them with affordable and accessible resources. At the same time, they're working to address the lack of payment artists receive when accepted by open calls. Currently, they are sponsored by Brain Arts Org and Dancing Clearly. And similarly, I'm dropping those paragraphs in the chat, as well as some links to their social media so you can do a little bit more research on them. And now on to Claire. I'm going to be spotlighting her in just one moment.
Hi, everybody. I'm Claire Jones. I am a Black female, and I have a shaved head, and I'm wearing red glasses with an array of colorful necklaces around my neck, a red shawl, and a white cotton shirt. My pronouns are she, her. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for coming. A year ago, I was finishing up my last chemo and in the early stages of fungal pneumonia. I came into remission in October. It was a difficult time. In December 2020, 21, I felt an all-consuming lethargy, but assumed it was menopause. So I did not see a doctor. During that time, I learned of my mom's death, but we were estranged and I was too sick to do anything, so I never saw her. I continued to mourn her loss. However, a couple of weeks ago, she came to my daughter in a dream and she told her she understood and that she was okay. This dream helped me a lot to move on. This talk is in her memory. May she rest in peace. Today is also a sort of coming out, a declaration of a new beginning. Throughout my cancer journey, I dreamed of a night like this, and wow, I made it happen. I'm still healing and working on my walking and other life issues. I take it day to day and one day at a time, but I'm never giving up. So I'm glad to be here with you at last. So I'm going to do a bit of housekeeping before we start. And our time might go over a bit because we were waiting for people. And also I'll explain a little bit more about that shortly. My daughter Amaranthia made the presentation and she's doing the behind the scenes work. The presentation is streaming from an iPad. One of our computers broke in the middle of setting up and we were forced to switch to the iPad at the last minute. So you'll briefly see Amaranthia's iPad homepage briefly as she brings up the presentation each time. At the end, there will be a question and answer session. Before the Q&A, I will announce info about our next Art and Mind event at Sisters. And here's the accessibility info and key points for the evening. Afterwards, this will segue into the intro. Event accessibility. Sista Creatives Rising is a virtual platform, so we are excited to present this today. The video presentations we are showing all have open captioning. Auto captioning via Zoom is available for the live parts of this event. The slideshow sections have nature imagery such as waterfalls, forests, clouds, lotuses, and other greenery. Next to the nature imagery are clips or pictures of me during and after treatment. I will read the text when each slide appears. Audio reminders to take a breath are spliced throughout the presentation. In creating this presentation, we utilize tools and imagery from Canva and royalty-free music from Splice. Additional nature imagery was supplied by Sista Creatives Rising Art and Mind team, Mel Chilianis. For my accessibility, I have something I learned recently is called chemo brain, a bit of fogginess I experienced since getting chemo. So I'll be reading off and on from my cell phone to help move the evening along. The key points. How art and writing can be used as a healing tool to cope with trauma. How to apply clarity, awareness, presence, acceptance, and gratitude to cleanse your emotional palette on a daily basis. How using inspirational and motivational quotes can help galvanize your healing journey. How to self-advocate when you don't feel represented as a minority woman in a medical setting. The importance of believing in yourself and your inner power during a debilitating crisis and critical life-changing moments. The mental health benefits of documenting your crisis through journaling so you can view your progress. How to find self-love when you don't recognize yourself in the mirror. And at the end, my call to action. Get ahead of life before life gets ahead of you. A Q&A will be after the talk. If you love this talk and know orgs would be interested in virtual presentations, please contact us via email, info@sistercreativesrising.com, on Instagram @sistercreativesrising, and you can view our YouTube Art and Mind series on YouTube. The presentation will start now. Thank you.
All these obstacles, it's crazy. So many things all at once. It's almost like like your body said, all right, we're gonna like just take care of this all at one time because it's taking
Yeah.
too long.
Yes, it was just an accumulation of years and years of all the traumas and that I've gone through as a um, childhood domestic violence survivor. There, there are things that you live your life, and as a survivor, you live. I like to describe it as I lived under umbrella of self-sabotage, and my friends that accompanied me under this umbrella were desperation, resentment, victimhood, stress, and I carried that with me because I had inherited these patterns of survival. And so the moment when I was on that hospital bed, I had to kick those toxic friends to the curb.
Yeah.
I had to say, you know what? You can't accompany me here now. Presence. The friends that I have to accompany me now, right now, are positivity, optimism, hope. I have to be present right now in my life, and I have no time for negativity.
Yes.
Because before I was self-sabotage and do all this thing, and I couldn't figure out how I would live a life that didn't deal with all these toxicities and dysfunctions. But cancer brought clarity immediately.
Yes.
Immediately. I had no choice. Breathe. Hi again. Here's a little note about my toxic friends I recently wrote to share with you. I'm going to read it from my notes. Who are my toxic friends? They're the dark side of me, or my intrusive thoughts. They're the thoughts you hear compelling you to go through that red light because you can make it. Go for it, they whisper. It will be fine, they're convinced. No, don't listen. They're up to no good. If you live in unawareness, they will pin you down and ruin your life. Cancer helped me to find ways to deal with them, to call them out. However, if for some reason I waver, they rise. Here's an example. I was having a difficult time last month and my life force was low. So they started whispering, only one person will turn up for your presentation. Why bother? Feeling beaten down, I finally agreed with the whispers, calling Amy to tell her to reduce my time from an hour and a half to 1 hour because no one really knew me, and it would be better to just go for 1 hour. So here we are with an overage regarding time, about 10 minutes. In rehearsals, my presentation came in at an hour and a half, but I no longer had that time. It was then it hit me. Those toxic buddies of mine pulled a guerrilla warfare tactic on me. I did not even see it coming. Now I know they will come at me from all angles, especially when I'm not alert. Nevertheless, here I am. I still made it. I showed up. and so did you. Not just one, but many. Those botherances only had a partial win. I am still rising, and I have strategies that outwit their petty tactics. Not today. So let's go on. The clip about my toxic friends was from the Voices of Women Conference for International Women's Day 2023. Tonight, I will share with you why writing is like oxygen to me and how it's helping me to heal. The artwork you just saw were sun angels. I call them sun angels. And they originated from pictures of my pictures of the stunning New Hampshire sky and clouds. I manipulated them through various apps to get these amazing effects. And a friend on Instagram animated them. They're abstract, psychedelic paintings with bright colors. Tonight, I will show you my lived experience, how I hid my true self for years under an umbrella of self-sabotage, accompanied by my toxic friends, while seeming to function well in plain sight. However, cancer forced me to reveal my true self and my fears, and how now I'm finally learning to manage my toxic friends and a toxic life condition by using my writing. I hope you will stay and chat with me afterwards. Again, thanks for joining us tonight. Check out the next pre-taped presentation, and I'll see you on the other side. In her commencement speech to Tennessee State graduates class of 2023, Oprah Winfrey said, "Pay attention to your life. It is speaking to you all the time." On March 24th, 2022, my feet stopped walking, and I was finally forced to pay attention to my life speaking to me. Feet that took me all the way to 2 months after my 59th birthday just stopped. On March 18th, I suddenly noticed the deterioration. Even my cat did. She ran to tell my daughter when I fell on the floor upstairs. Yet, my internal alarm did not go off because I chose to be willfully unconscious about my poor health. Why? I was worried about all the problems that would arise if I called out to my daughter to let her know I was in trouble. After 22 years as a homemaker and caretaker of an invisibly disabled, now young adult, who would help my daughter? What about our cat who has PTSD and chronic stomach problems and is my daughter's ESA, her emotional support animal? What about her? Who would take care of the house? How would my family manage the bills? As a Black immigrant woman, would I be safe? What kind of doctors would I have? Foreclosure is closing in. Possible bankruptcy? I'm still mourning for my mom. No family to call. How would my new business venture move forward? Thoughts of divorce. COVID. How will I manage through all these complications? Universe, make it stop. All thoughts crumbled, suddenly crumbled, in a jumble of words at my feet as I tried to stand only to crash to the floor. It was then I realized the weighted bands I wanted to order from Amazon for my legs to work again were not going to solve this problem. I yelled for my daughter to call the ambulance as I looked up from my slouched position on the floor to see the early morning sun creeping through the slats of the white bathroom window for the first time. What would you do in this situation if your feet that listened when you called upon them to walk you out of childhood domestic violence in your 20s, if your feet that listened to you to cross oceans to fight for your education, if your feet that once listened walked you to the slave castles on the western coast of Africa, allowing you to stand at the door of no return off the coast of Senegal, where your ancestors were forced into ships that took them into slavery in the Americas, if those feet helped you to stand at a crucial moment to commune ever so briefly with a traumatic past, if those feet suddenly stopped walking in your 59th year, what would you do? What if the feet that carried you through 29 houses until you found your home in the 30th no longer allowed you to walk out from that 30th home on your own, only getting out of said doors by a special chair lifted by medics from an ambulance as your mobility slowly dripped and drained from your inert body? What would you do? On March 25th, 2022, I had emergency surgery for a massive growth on my upper spine and was told I had a 50% chance of paralysis, that I was losing mobility by the hour. At this crucial crossroads of my life, I made peace with a self that was no more. I knew whatever emerged on the other side of that moment, I had to still stand, to rise, with or without those feet that carried me up until that moment. What would you have done in this type of situation? Like Oprah said in the opening quote, pay attention to your life. It is speaking to you all the time. In tonight's presentation, I intend to show you what I'm doing now that I'm in the rare 1% to walk again after such a surgery. I hope tonight's presentation will inspire you to be proactive in your daily living and to get ahead of life before life gets ahead of you. Welcome to my presentation, a 50% chance of paralysis, how I utilized journaling as self-reflection during cancer treatment. Breathe. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that presentation. Like Oprah said, pay attention to your life. Your life is always speaking to you all the time. Pay attention, but know life can speak to you from a dark place or from a place of light. What is your life condition when life speaks to you? Are you in a dark place or are you in a place of light? The question I posed throughout this night to you is, what would you do were you in a position like mine? Would you pay attention to your life as it speaks to you? Lying in the hospital, unable to move on my own during those days of aloneness in cancer, I decided to go for my dreams. I realized Future time was not something I could depend on. Past time was not something I could fix, and that I only had the present. So I decided to boldly charge forward. I'm here with you because I finally listened to the whispers of light and rejected the dark, intrusive whispers during the most overwhelming episode of my life. I'm grateful for the opportunity presented by cancer to finally self-actualize. Now, to my next video. I'll see you on the other side. Looking for me. I remember reading Mills and Booms, like Danielle Steele. I remember the woman on the cover, hair streaming over the arms of a muscular white man. She, white too. I remember how I started to look for me, to look for the little girls with the braids dotting she had like the pieces on a checkerboard. Sometimes I read 4 or 5 books, all in one day, just looking for me. The little girl with the braids dotting she had like the pieces on a checkerboard. One day it was a redhead with green eyes, the next a blonde with blue. But never a little girl, caramel brown, real chubby and cute, almond-shaped eyes, brown and soft like plum just washed raisins, lips purple red like fresh juicy plums. I remember never finding that little girl, the little girl with the braids dotting she had like the pieces on a checkerboard. One of the marvels of the world is the sight of a soul sitting in a prison with the key in its hand. Rumi. Writing is like oxygen to me. Bursting through the auditorium door, I sprinted up the short flight of stairs to the stage. Standing in the glaring floodlights was 15-year-old me. Bounding across the stage, 58-year-old me rushed over to grab a stunned younger self by the arm to force her to leave. I saw the empty chairs. The audience had long gone. Racing across the stage while dragging a younger self behind me, I headed for the stairs towards the exit. Over the years, a recurring nightmare would happen whenever a speaking opportunity arrived. In each instance, I found myself back on that high school stage, frozen in the same spot, looking out into an audience that was no longer there. But through it all, I wrote. Writing is like oxygen to me. This imprisoned girl, the person that I was trying to leave behind, was from the result of years of trauma I was trying to discard and finally did, right in the middle of cancer treatment. This visualization I had was of me returning to my 15-year-old self, who was stranded in front of an audience the first time I attempted to give a speech during high school years. The visualization ends with 58-year-old me grabbing the hand of my 15-year-old self and rushing out into the blazing sunlight to stand in the courtyard. Holding the younger me in a bear hug, I told her I was sorry for leaving her behind on that lonely stage all these years. Suddenly, as soon as the words left my mouth, the yard flooded with likenesses of myself from age 4 to age 58. My similarities gathered around, and we hugged each other and cried our eyes out. As the bright yellow glow of the morning sun warmed our bodies, we began a new journey together as one, fragmented no more. Today, because of cancer and through the use of my pen, I am finding my way forward to finally live as a whole, healthy person. Cancer allowed me to see that I always held the key to my self-made prison in my hand. Writing is like oxygen to me. In 2015, when I learned that I had the potential to contract multiple myeloma, a rare blood cancer, I decided to continue using my middle name, Claire, in all of my writings and artworks. Claire means bright. Using it brought fresh air. I gained separation and space from my first name, which carried the burden and the weight of trauma from the after effects of childhood domestic violence. Claire gave me the much needed positivity and light to combat the new devastating reality of potential cancer during those early years. In March 2022, I was rushed to emergency surgery to remove a cancerous growth on my spine. It was a large B-cell lymphoma and not myeloma, but the effects were still overwhelming and debilitating, and I lost my mobility for most of the year. In a recent article about the work my daughter and I are doing in our upcoming virtual art event under Sista Creatives Rising called Art and Mind, I was described as quote-unquote fighting ongoing cancer. Reading that made me realize that this description did not adequately speak to the process. In thinking about it, I realized I was not fighting ongoing cancer. I am continuing to fight the causes that created the effect or manifestation of cancer in my life. I was looking for myself in places where I never saw myself. I believe cancer manifested in my body because of all the traumas and stresses I suffered physically, emotionally, and psychologically under childhood domestic violence. It made sense that cancer manifested on my back because it represented the toxic load I carried over the years. Therefore, cancer is no longer ongoing, quote unquote, for me, but the process to combat the underlying issues that cause cancer is ongoing. Writing and speaking about my cancer journey is helping me to heal. After most of the cancer was removed by surgery, the rest was flushed down the sewer through body waste during my radiation and chemo treatments. In order for cancer to not return, I must live a disciplined life of diligence, vigilance, and consistency. I do this daily via my writings, Buddhist practice readings, audio lectures, reading quotes from inspiration thought leaders, and a personal 5-step system I devised and implement daily to keep me centered, called Clarity is Just So Hip. Clarity, awareness, presence, acceptance, and gratitude. These practices are my highest expression of self-love. Through them, I found self-love by standing in my suffering and reflecting through my writing. By doing this, I finally recognize myself, my true self, in the mirror. One of the marvels of the world is the sight of a soul sitting in prison with the key in its hand. Rumi. Writing is like oxygen to me. Breathe. Breathe. I again. The piece we just showed goes further into how I struggled with self-sabotage for most of my life because of the after effects of childhood domestic violence that accompanied me for years, and why writing is like oxygen to me. Cancer's gift of self-love and self-empowerment is allowing me to show how I really am while spreading love and light by sharing my journey. I had the key to my life in my hands all along. In this next section, I share a slideshow. This discusses how using therapeutic writing and inspirational, motivational quotes helped me to reflect during difficult times. I'll ask some questions after each slide, and you can provide your answer in the chat. The first slide, the quote reads, "The healing power of words is not a new idea. Words were thought to have medicine and magical healing powers, so much so that inscribed above Egypt's famed Library of Alexandria was the phrase, the healing place of the soul." This is taken from article, The Power of Therapeutic Writing, paths.care on October 2022. This is a picture of me on April 14th, 2022. I'm in my recovery bed on my first day home. I am wearing my back and neck brace with a pink cardigan, big red glasses, and an orange wool hat. In my hands is a plate with a carrot cake that says fighting in all caps. I am smiling at the camera. What fighting means? Fighting is a word I actually got from Korean dramas. I watch a lot of Korean dramas, and sometimes you have actors who would have difficult situations, and they would always use this word fighting before they tackle them. And so as I went through chemo and radiation and the whole cancer treatment situation, I would always say fighting to myself. When there was another test or there was another scan, fighting. And why carrot cake? Carrot cake is my favorite cake. I love it. Inside, this is an inside joke Emma made on me when I got home. She had a carrot cake that was ready for me. I got home from rehab. This is the first day, and she had a cake ready, a carrot cake with the word fighting on it. And this is why I was smiling, because it was such a sweet thing to do and funny as well. During cancer treatment, I was diagnosed with steroid-induced diabetes, and then eventually I had high cholesterol, high potassium, low potassium. I had high cholesterol because in trying to lower my carb diet, I raised my proteins, and that gave me high cholesterol. So as I fought to realign my system, I kept saying, my immune system, I kept saying, fighting. What words do you use to help you when you are in a challenging situation? You can drop your answer in the chat. Slide 2. Quote says, the people from the expressive writing group were 6 times more likely to have a wound that had healed within 10 days than the people in the control group. This was taken from the article, The Puzzling Way That Writing Heals the Body, bbc.com, June 2017. An image of my spinal surgery scar about a month and a half. This picture shows it was taken on May 4th, 2022. An image of my spinal surgery scar about a month and a half after surgery. The scar is a long reddish brown line on my upper back above my black bra. Reddish brown dots line up on both sides of the scar. Tiny bruises and marks are on my back as well. It was really hard to recognize myself in the mirror with all the swelling and puffiness and a distended gut, because they had to move everything aside to get to whatever they wanted to do. Also, I was now a cancer survivor. Life would never be the same. I also wondered if I would ever feel the natural flow I once had in my body. Seeing the wound was jarring and hard to deal with, but I got used to it over time. Diagnosed with agoraphobia, complex PTSD, and panic disorder a couple of weeks before I went into the hospital helped a lot, because I finally knew how to deal with situations when they came up. I knew my emotions were not coming in a vacuum. The diagnosis made sense because of my background of domestic violence. I wrote throughout this time, and it helped me tremendously. I am still standing because writing is one of the major tools in my toolbox of healing. Question: What ways are you a warrior in your life? Do you have a toolbox to use when your life needs healing? Drop your answer in the chat. Slide 3, quote. In addition to the mental benefits, writing can even improve physical well-being. Research by Dr. Penn Baker and Joshua Smith, PhD, Syracuse University, suggests that writing about emotions and stress can boost immune functioning in patients with HIV, AIDS, asthma, and arthritis. Taken from article Writing as Therapy, psycom.net, November 2020. Next to the quote, the picture of me. It's an up-close selfie of me in my hospital bed. I'm wearing my large red glasses with a gold chain attached. I have oxygen tubing in my nose. My mouth is slightly open and I look tired. This was after I was diagnosed with a severe and dangerous fungal pneumonia triggered by my last chemo. When in hospital, writing helped me deal with the ongoing crisis. Tons of tests and unpredictable situations kept happening, and immobility forced me to operate from a limited place. Writing helped me to rise above all of it, including when I learned my lungs were infected as a side effect of chemo, and I had to go to surgery to clean them via an invasive operation called a bronchoscopy. Through it all, I kept writing in my notes app on my cell phone, which became my accessibility writing tool. Once again, writing helped me to overcome. Question: when crisis comes to your life, do you have tools such as writing that you use to help you through it? Drop your answer in the chat. Slide 4. Quote, clarity allows you to prioritize and do things on time. With clarity, you can be sure of what you should manage. A clear mindset helps you to differentiate between what's more important and what's secondary, allowing you to do things faster and better. This article is taken from 5 Reasons Clarity is Important in Life, theleaptolead.com, August 2022. Here's a video of me taken on July 25th, 2022. As part of my occupational therapy, I helped my daughter trim plant roots in our hydroponic tower system. The system is a tall white tower with circular lights attached. In this video, I'm trimming the roots of green lettuce plants and putting the roots into a white trash bag. In 2015, when I was told I had the potential to contract myeloma, I created a personal 5-step system called Clarity's Just So Hit: Clarity, Awareness, Presence, Acceptance, and Gratitude to deal with the devastation I felt. How did I apply it to my life? I cycled through crisis moments through each step by lying or sitting still and focusing on my breath in a wash, rinse, repeat cycle until I come to a place of calm and peace. This 5-step system creates the space I need from bothersome problems, allowing me to have a clear mind and heart to make decisions. Question: what helps you to clear your mind and heart when obstacles arise? Drop your answers in the chat. Slide 5, quote, BIPOC individuals are speaking out more and more about their medical emergencies, where they have been treated unfairly, invalidated, and degraded. This treatment can have dangerous consequences, as many minorities, especially Black people, already feel immense distrust towards medical practitioners. Article: Disparities in Medical Care: How Marginalized People Have Difficulty Accessing Equitable Health Care. This is taken from PlannedParenthood.com, 2021. And this video was taken on May 13th, 2022. This is about a month after I arrived home. I am in my garage using my brown bench I got from Japan to enter my house. My therapist is physical therapist there to guide me. My walker is in front of me as I use the bench to get inside. Now I'll read a short excerpt from an article on Medium I wrote titled Cancer Crisis. Growing up in Barbados, I saw doctors and nurses who looked like me and understood my body and how illness presented itself in a person of color like me. However, visiting doctors in the US was always an eye-opening and stressful experience. Most were white, and I never felt comfortable expressing my feelings. Today, my primary care doctor is a woman of color, which has helped tremendously. End of quote. I was fortunate to have a great medical team. The reason I had anxiety and wasted time going to the hospital, even as I lost mobility, was because of worrying about my care. Thankfully, I had a professional medical team, and this included people of color. In fact, I also saw a Black female doctor who encouraged me to share my story on podcasts as a way to heal. I followed her advice, and you can see more about my journey in podcast interviews at our Art and Mind YouTube channel. Check out the link in the chat. Most Black folk are not as fortunate, so I am grateful to have met doctors who listened to and cared for me during such a critical time. I found this quote in an article titled, "Do you trust your doctor?" on medium.com. Quote, open quote, Black Americans make up 13% of the US population, but only 4% of US doctors and less than 7% of US medical students. Researchers found that people of color are more than 4 times as likely to receive care from physicians of color, low income, Medicaid, and uninsured patients are also likely to go to a doctor of color. Only 4% of US doctors and less than 7% of US medical students are people of our color, are Black. And I had one Black doctor. What is the chances of that? So that was quite fortunate. How do you advocate for yourself and those you love? Drop your answer in the chat. Self-advocating as a marginalized woman. Don't hesitate to switch doctors when mistreated. Make it clear what you want and don't want, even if you have to repeat yourself several times. You can write up your concerns and show your doctor them at your appointment. Send letters or speak with patient relations to get your point across. Don't let people dictate your emotions or manipulate them. Always go back to your breath. It gives you space when things get rough. Invite a friend or family member who won't hesitate to stand up for you during these type of situations. Know that insurance will always challenge your care. Document and notate your phone calls with them in case they go back on their word. Have them send a letter detailing what's covered and what doctors are in network, so you can hold them accountable in case they switch up. If you discover a doctor that is culturally incompetent or is ignorant of a health disparity that affects minorities, send in a letter, speak to a patient advocate, or if your doctor is willing to listen, have a chat with them. It's important to document so others don't go through the same. It can be life or death for you or for someone else. Slide 6. By addressing past traumas and negative thought patterns, individuals can begin to experience greater peace, joy, and fulfillment in their lives. From the article, Why Inner Healing is Important for Your Mental Health, CoachSanjita.com, April 2023. This is a video taken of me August 15th, 2022. Here I was in and out of the hospital, still fighting against the fungal pneumonia infection. The doctors struggled to figure out what was going on. Infectious disease specialists kept visiting me thinking I had COVID, which thankfully I've never had. Despite all this, I focused on my inner healing, finding ways to appreciate life and the support I was receiving from my friend Angela and my daughter. I'm holding some flowers given to me by Angela, which helped me smile during this time. I'm wearing an N95 under my chin since I was eating. I'm also wearing a black hoodie and a gray shirt. I'm resting in a hospital recliner. Some flowers bring me immense joy and are very healing to me. That's the background here tonight. Um, the Buddhism I practice is known as the Buddhism of the sun. Some flowers remind me of my practice. They remind me to keep my face to the sun and to keep chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo and believing in myself. By the way, this is the same practice. This is the same Buddhism practiced by the late Tina Turner. It helped her to combat domestic violence. Knowing this helped me as a survivor myself to keep practicing. Some flowers give me courage and hope to keep facing the sun and to rise every day, no matter the conditions. Question: how do you keep believing in yourself when everything around you says you have no value? Drop your answers in the chat. Slide number 7. Write in a journal every day to process your thoughts and experiences. Journaling helps you recognize your motivations, emotions, and beliefs so that you can make thoughtful adjustments in your life. For a few minutes every day, write down what you did, felt, and thought throughout the day. Article: How to Get to Know Yourself, Self-Discovery Questions, and More. wikihow.com, December 2022. August 3rd, 2023, here's a video of me journaling on my iPhone Notes app and writing notes for today's presentation. I find journaling digitally to be most accessible to me. My phone has a cartoon frog case with arms, legs, and big eyes. I'm using a red stylus to scroll and type. I'm lying across my bed while typing. Having to use wheelchairs, walkers, etc. made it difficult to recognize myself. I would spend hours at a time watching and marveling at how people moved. I never did this before. I promised myself to walk again, to never forget what it was like to not move freely like they were doing. In this way, I learned the importance of gratitude. This made me face the truth about my life because I was forced to sit with myself. Writing about every step of my journey is helping me to fully accept all of me, including my childish self that was lost under layers and layers of trauma from childhood domestic violence. Question: was there ever a time you did not recognize yourself in the mirror? If so, what did you do? Please drop your answer in the chat. Slide 8. The quote reads, basically, self-love is when you appreciate and value you, says therapist Julissa Shelby, LCPC. That means it's something you can feel, but it's also the actions that you take because you respect and prioritize yourself. From the article, 11 Ways to Practice Self-Love, that therapists swear by. From the article from wondermind.com, April 2023. It's May 23rd, 2022, 2 months after my surgery. I'm in the parking lot of New Hampshire Neurospine when I finally got approved to take off my brace after 8 weeks. This was 2 days before my first chemo and 2 months after surgery. I wasn't supposed to be able to walk with a walker for several months. Now I'm in the 1% to walk again after high-risk spinal surgery. I'm next to my friend Angela's car celebrating. My arms are up in the air. In my left hand is my brace and I'm doing a peace sign with my right hand. I'm wearing a colorful headband, 2 masks, my red glasses, and a blue long sleeve open shirt. Under it, I'm wearing a yellow shirt and black sweats. I have my walker decorated with motivational stickers and a purple bag is attached. This brace was confining. In fact, as I got closer to standing more and walking more, it started to break. I could not see left. When I had it on, I could not see left, right, behind me, up or down. It only and I could only see ahead of me. It only came off when I was in bed for and I had it on for 8 long weeks. I could only look forward. So I used it as a metaphor for my life and did just that. Presence. I had some nurses who did not believe I would walk again. I guess it was hard to imagine when looking at a medical chart like mine. However, I let their words go over my head. Their words never entered me. It was suggested that I put a wheelchair in front of the TV to hang out or to eat from. It was suggested I get a ramp for outside my house. I was having none of it. I told one nurse I would walk on my own by the end of summer, and she told me not to get ahead of myself. Well, I guess I did. I did just that because I was walking by the end of summer, taking my first full step without support 6 days after my first chemo, and I have not stopped since. Every day we climb. This is a quote from one of my favorite books called The Buddha in the Mirror, Practical Buddhism and the Search for Self by Woody Hochschwender, Greg Martin, and Ted Marino. I'm climbing by not self-sabotaging and I'm challenging myself to do presentations like this tonight. How am I climbing? By taking care of my health in every way, physically, emotionally, spiritually, and more. Open quote. Today, an estimated 133 million Americans, nearly half of the population, suffer from at least one chronic illness, such as hypertension, heart disease, and arthritis. Close quote. American Hospital Association, AHA.org. I continue to advocate for myself and my family. Now masking mandates are gone. I advocate for medical professions to wear masks whenever me or my family are in the examination room because we are all immunocompromised and cannot afford to contract any infections, including COVID. I also advocate for others through Sista Creatives Rising to see masking as a form of accessibility for in-person events like wheelchairs and walkers, canes, etc. Masks are invaluable to people like me because they allow us to move around outside of our homes and to feel safe. People like me want to enjoy life too. In the meantime, trying to keep watch over my toxic friends is an ongoing battle, but it is important work to stay clear and aware. There are still lots of financial issues left over from the after effects of COVID and cancer, but I keep barreling forward. And most of all, I'm continuing to write to heal my life. Every day we climb. How are you challenging yourselves in your daily lives? Are you climbing or are you falling? Not all storms, slide 9, not all storms come to disrupt your life. Some come to clear your path. Self-improvement daily. I believe cancer came to clear my path. This video taken August 1st, 2023. A slow-mo video of me spinning around with my flower-themed cane in the grass near my neighborhood, enjoying New Hampshire sun and the fresh, cool breeze. This is something I couldn't do 15 months ago. I'm wearing a KN95, a white kimono-style thin cardigan with a colorful flower print, a white flowy jumpsuit, and colorful bracelets on both wrists. Trees are surrounding me. So what have I learned? I've learned to make presents, that you should make presents your sword and vigilance your shield. When life rattles us to the point of breaking, it is time to pause and reflect. Remain constantly you, no matter your environment. All is well because I am well. Unpackage your resentments. Fine-tune your perspectives. Never to let the pursuit of perfection halt me in my tracks. And it's never too late to embrace your inner child. Here's a quote from one of my writings. Strive to become passionate and compassionate in your daily life. And on this next slide, slide 12, my favorite flowers, sunflower bouquet, and assorted white and purple flowers in a large green glass. This is resting on top of a counter in my hospital room. This is the same bouquet given to me when I had pneumonia.
Breathe.
Check out the next presentation.
The late Maya Angelou said in her famous poem, "You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still, like dust, I'll rise." Rise. Rise, sister survivors. Let us rise. Let us unfurl our battle cry. Rise. Rise, sister survivors. Rise above the chaos and get ahead of life before life gets ahead of you. The well-known spiritual guide and teacher Eckhart Tolle once said, "Always say yes to the present moment. Surrender to what is. Say yes to life and see how life starts suddenly working for you rather than against you." I believe no matter our backgrounds, we women survivors need to center our lives in clarity, awareness, presence, acceptance, and gratitude to reclaim our lives. To live, many women like myself have learned to survive first. Having lived a full, multifaceted, and multicultural life amid numerous challenges, I came to believe that for women like myself to live stable and meaningful lives, we must instill clarity, awareness, presence, acceptance, and gratitude as a daily, consistent practice. In other words, for life to begin working for us, it is essential to unflinchingly ground ourselves from deep within our truths to determine a self-defined purpose. I know this because I came to embrace such a philosophy as a daily practice, and I'm here to tell you that it works. We, as women survivors, now face this ongoing pandemic era. How are we supposed to take charge and win in our daily lives? How can we live in a male-dominated world that is often violent and dismissive of our very essence? We have often had to take care of others above ourselves, frequently losing our autonomy. How do we find our footing back when we have entangled our lives with others for so long? In these turbulent and unpredictable times, we stand at a crossroads. We have a window of opportunity regarding the pressing issues related to our sexual autonomy. Speaking out and determining our paths forward as individuals empowered within our bodies and sexual identities. We have a window of opportunity in our politics to fight for that long overdue seat at the table. We have a window of opportunity to stand with our daughters as they forge onward to challenge the issues that impact their lives. We have a window of opportunity to take charge of our lives in every sphere. As a survivor of a plethora of traumas stemming from childhood domestic violence, I have awakened to a new life based upon these essential principles. This new way of being in the world allowed me to access who I am as a living being inhabiting the body of a Black Caribbean woman who started with no financial inheritance. To me, living in this space means you are grounded and centered in who you are as a human spiritual being and a woman. I believe that when you understand the significance of these fundamentals and the power they give you to surge forward when applied to your life, you will come to understand your purpose here on earth. Once you enter alignment with your goal, you feel a sense of freedom that allows you to fly. It is hard work, but worth the effort. Focusing on a daily, consistent practice that suits you and your new lifestyle is the first step to maintaining clarity, awareness, presence, acceptance, and gratitude on a day-to-day basis. Discovering this new way of living is a personal journey best done in solitude. No person or thing or situation can hold you back once you tap into your truth. Clarity is just so here. So rise, sister survivors. Let us unbox ourselves, unpackage our lives. It is time to put aside our insecurities to come into our own. The time is now. Rise. You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still, like dust, I'll rise. Breathe.
The previous video is an excerpt from my unpublished memoir, Sister Survivor. Get ahead of life before life gets ahead of you. Now, I'll leave you with my call to action. Get ahead of life before life gets ahead of you. When I call for you to get ahead of life before it gets ahead of you, understand that I'm not telling you that life will never throw you curveballs. This is inevitable. To get ahead of your life, live proactively, not reactively. Breathe, walk, stand in gratitude, always, because life is a blessing regardless of the darks and lights. Create value with your lives. Treasure your bodies and never take them for granted. Your body is the only one you have. Get to know your toxic friends. Good friends are necessary, but bad friends are really there to hold us accountable. You are your own universe, and you are all you have in the end. Strive to live a diligent, responsible, and uplifting life at every level, so that when the difficult times appear, you will have built up some resistance and space to continue flowing with power and heightened life force from inside out. Every day we climb. Keep going and get ahead of life before life gets ahead of you. Now, I'll be sharing a closing video, which is my final Sun Angel animation. After this is a thank you note, info about our upcoming Sista Creatives Rising event. Finally, we'll have a Q&A session. Please stay with us. Special thanks to all who helped me to get to this point. Thank you so much. I could not have done it without you. Now, before our quick Q&A, I want to share an upcoming Sista Creatives Rising event. Introducing Art and Mind. I Know Who I Am, Journeys of Women of Color and Femme Expressing Creatives. This is a poster drawn by my daughter showcasing a sunflower field with green abstract mountains and a blue sky with clouds. It's a free virtual fundraiser and film event occurring Thursday, October 5th at 6:30 p.m. Eastern. We'll be showcasing 2 documentaries. One is the same name as the event, where we'll be showcasing 5 artists utilizing the healing power of art. We'll also showcase a documentary about me titled Get Ahead of Your Life, Get Ahead of Life Before Life Gets Ahead of You. What you saw today were some bits and pieces of my documentary. We'll be fundraising for our Sisters Uprising Fund, which is a fund where 100% of proceeds will become grants for BIPOC artists. We'll have Black activist speakers, COVID-conscious therapist Amanda McGuire, MC and QT BIPOC therapist Joni LaFond, and disability activist and poet Jaquise Armstrong. Free tickets will be out at the end of August. See our newsletter link in the chat and sign up to get notified. Featured artists include painter The Lady Miss Vagina Jenkins, animator Heisi Hu, painter Tanisha Skyers, multimedia artist Kai Hernandez, musician and artist Sabi Lu Sounds. Thanks to our sponsors, BrainArts.org, BrainArts.org, and Dancing Queerly Boston. It's time for our 15 minutes Q&A. Feel free to raise your hand or put it in the chat. Put your question in the chat. Amy, please let us know if anyone puts a question in the chat. Okay.
Hi, it's me again.
Oh,
Amy.
hi, Amy.
Hi, I actually do have a question. Because as a librarian, you know, I love books, and I know you mentioned a book that you read, Buddha in the Mirror.
Hold on a minute, Amy. I can't hear you.
Oh no.
1 second. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so you mentioned how Buddha in the Mirror helped you through your process. I was wondering if you just had any other books that were perhaps helpful in your journey.
Oh my goodness. Right now, I have not been on a book vibe lately. I've been more in a YouTube audio thingy situation. I listen to a lot of uplifting speeches by Oprah Winfrey. That's what I'm doing now. By Louise Hay. Every morning I listen to stuff like that. I listen to who else do I listen to? There's a YouTube channel I go to called Motivation Art, and they have compilation of all these motivational speeches that I listen to. Because since getting out of the hospital, I find it's very hard to focus on books. So I kind of just do things like that now. Instead, but Buddha in the Mirror was one that I did before I went into the hospital. I have another list I can send you though. Anyway, that would be helpful.
That would be great. And I do see there is also a question in the chat from Sabi, and they are asking, can you tell us how you came to start using your 5-step practice?
Oh, yeah. When in 2015, I went for a physical, and then suddenly in my physical, they called me back and they said, you have your white blood cells are low and you have to go see a specialist. So it was from there that things started, and I went to this specialist and I learned I had the potential to contract this rare blood cancer called multiple myeloma, and it can manifest in your bones, and if that happens, then it's really bad. So it was devastating. I just fell off the cliff at that time. This is so for 10 years I was dealing with this, and so at that time I really was so devastated and I couldn't function. So I felt that I needed to create this Instagram page called Clarity's Just So Hit. And I would go outside and I would take these pictures those clarity pictures that you saw, those sun angels. And it came from there. Clarity's Just So Hit. And then it just came to me. I needed to have clarity. I needed to be aware. I needed to be present. I needed to accept the things I could not change. And I needed to have gratitude. And so I just started it from then. And then I started, like, if a problem comes up, I just would go into clarity. As I said, be still. I would breathe and I would sit down, give me clarity, whatever situation it is. I would run it through clarity, then I'd run it through awareness, and I'd just go through like that over and over and over again. And then the situation, I would come to a place of calmness. So I kept using it. And so when lymphoma hit 10 years later, I had that with me as I went into the hospital. But it was lymphoma, it wasn't myeloma. And the doctors were all shocked because they couldn't believe that it wasn't myeloma they were looking at. It was a lesser form of blood cancer. So that's how it helped. On the days where it's harder, maybe those toxic friends are a bit too loud or yes, those toxic friends are and as I said, with this presentation, they did a little guerrilla warfare on me. I mean, I was like, I didn't see them coming. I didn't know that that's what was happening. So I didn't see them coming. Sometimes you don't see them coming. They're tricky like that. They know you because it's really you. It's really you. So they know you, you know you, and your toxic friends or your intrusive thoughts know you inside out. And so they'll come at you, especially when you're low. So this is why it's so important to have a system of light that's gonna keep you uplifted every single day, because you know, if you let them get in control, if you let those voices get in control, you'll be wiped out. So Lizzie.
All right, I have
Yes. Yes.
okay, I have a question. I'm Christina, and
Hi,
thank you
Christina.
so much for this presentation. It's been inspiring. I've learned a lot. My mother is a cancer survivor, so just glad to be able to support. So anyway, my question is, I noticed that you're referring to negative and unwanted thoughts as your toxic friends. Is there a reason why you're calling them friends as opposed to
Yes.
enemies or just
Oh, yes.
thoughts?
Because in Buddhism, we have something called good and bad friends. And in Buddhism, it's a Japanese word. They're called zenchishiki, bad friends. It's a Japanese word.
Okay.
And so in our practice, they tell you about these bad friends. And in Buddhism, you have the protective gods, which are called the Shoten Genjin. They're the gods, the good gods that are around in the Buddhist world that protect you. And then you have the Shoten, what do you call the ones that are not protective? I can't remember, Amma. Then you have the gods that are not protective. They have a name for them, but they're the bad friends. But really they're you, right? And so I call them friends because they're really friends, but they're not. You have good and bad friends. You don't only have good friends in your life. Sometimes you have friends that they're not such good friends, but you still have them around, you know? And
Yeah,
sometimes you
people-
know, and sometimes you don't know. But it's good to know, right? So
Yes.
when I went through the hospital, I suddenly started calling them my toxic friends and started talking to them directly. So when I would hear these voices, I would say, no, get off my back or get off my shoulder. So I call them toxic friends. That's just my
All right, that makes sense.
Any more questions?
I have one more from me again.
Yeah.
So, using writing as a tool, were there ever days where, even though writing for you is like oxygen, where it just became so difficult that you didn't want to do it? Did you try to power through it? Did you try to just like let it roll and pick up the pen the next day?
Yeah. Yeah, writing for me, sometimes it's not, I'm not always writing it down. Sometimes I'm doing it in my head. And this is why my cell phone was great, because it was always with me. But sometimes if I wasn't feeling good because of chemo or because of the pneumonia, sometimes I didn't have energy, but I would have it in my head. I always have note cards around too, but mostly I always have my cell phones. And so sometimes I would just have this in my head, and as soon as I can get the energy, I'd go to my cell phone in my notes app and I'd put it down. So my notes app is filled with all these little notes in little folders that I have. And that's how I write, and that's how I'm writing my book too, in these little pieces all over the place. So yeah, but sometimes I couldn't physically do it, but I would still do it, you know?
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, sure. Anyone else? That's it. I guess that's it, Emmy. Thank you for coming. I really appreciate this. This was a dream I had as I was going through the hospital, that this was what I was going to do. I was going to do it, and I was not going to let anything keep me off of, I was not going to be stuck on that stage that you saw in the presentation anymore. So I really appreciate you guys being here with me tonight. Thank you. Oh,
We
there's one
actually
more.
do have, yes, from Sabi again. Do you have a way to keep the writing in your head until you can physically write?
Yeah, sometimes, yeah, I keep it in my head. Sometimes it might be just words, but I love having the, if I might not find the full sentence, I'll just have a word that I can hold on to. But lately, if it doesn't stay in my head, now I'm at home, I have these index cards. So if something comes, especially because I have a morning routine where I do my exercises and my meditation and my yoga stretches and everything. And during that time is when it comes. So I'll rush to a note card and I'll just write down a word. So if I can just write down a word and put it aside, that'll clue me into, okay, this is what I need to do. So, but sometimes it'll stick and it'll just be one word. Anything else? Sure. Thank you, Sabi. Any more questions?
So far in the chat, so
That's it?
I think this is it.
Yes. All right. Okay, thank you guys for coming. Please share this if you want to other people to see it. I'll be really interested in doing more virtual presentations like this.
All right,
So
thank you.
for coming. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to stop the video now. Have a good night, everyone.
Have a good night.
Good night.